First question is, if you could be anything you want for Halloween, what would it be? You could be anything, anyone.
Hmm.
What would you be?
That's a tough one.
Can't be that tough. It could be anything, like any infinite possibility. What do you want to be for Halloween?
Tonight I
Savior of the
went as a
world.
hippie.
Wait, I heard a few people there.
Tonight I went out as a hippie.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because
Yeah, but aren't you
um,
aren't you already a hippie?
yeah. I try.
So you went out as yourself.
Mhm.
No, you probably went out as like
I
a retro version, like a late 60s hippie.
like
Yeah.
I like peace is my big word. Just peace, inner peace.
You know,
Peace.
that's an interesting topic. That's good. But someone said, I'll get into that in a second, but someone else said something. Who was that said something else?
Savior of the world.
Savior?
Of the world.
Nice.
Oh,
Savior of the world.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking Jesus too.
Yeah.
Well, I think deep down, we all, at the core of our being, I think we all have the deep desire to save the world, and we'd gladly give our life in exchange for saving the entire planet. I think that's part of who we are.
Amen.
Amen.
I disagree. I think that most people would not give their life to save the world, but there's a part of us that would, right? And so I think
Yeah.
it's like activating that part, making that part of us bigger, you know, expanding that part. And then the part that is fearful, the part that is in division and separation, the part that's egoically based, the part that's, you know, to not feed that part
Yeah.
and expand the part that's grounded in love.
I agree with your disagreement. I think most people don't, wouldn't. But what I said was, at the core of our being,
At
I
the core,
think
yeah.
that at the core of our being, that's who
We
we
all
really
have the
are.
spark of the divine inside us,
Yeah.
spark of God inside us.
The soul.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to take away any opportunities for people to find truth. I mean, even though Jesus was a savior, he didn't really do all the work for us. He kind of showed us the way.
Mhm. What is that mic? Someone has their mic on? I don't know who that is.
Some TV in the background or something.
Yeah, it's like a TV or something.
Not, not in my house. Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Oh, may have been James. Somebody talking in the background.
Yeah, that's Karen talking in the background.
okay.
Yeah, for Halloween, what I'd want to be is the full potential that I could actually be, that man
Yeah,
could be.
you guys are
Just
like
to,
so. This is like
just to, dude,
definitely
just to
my community.
experience that.
You guys
Just to
are
experience that. I don't know if I'm going to understand it all. That's quite a bit to grab.
Right on.
like a normal community. People be like, I want to be Taylor Swift, or I want to be a monster. And you guys are like, I want to be the deepest love that's possible in the universe and save everyone. It's great. Fantastic. It's exactly the okay, so back to the peace component. Um I think that's a great segue. It's like, do we really want peace? Do we really want peace? Because one of the things that like I've been really looking at is, and I'm not when I'm saying we, I'm not saying necessarily you or me. I'm talking about like the collective human condition, right? Boy, do we love drama. Like love it, love it, love it. You know, can't get enough. Can't get enough. And I think there's something in us that, because if you think of like the deepest peace would kind of be like non-existence. It'd kind of be like there'd be nothing, it'd just be like the flat line, like just peace. Nothing's happening, peace. Um, So I think like what we're awakening to is this being in the world but not of it, right? This consciousness of awakening to this recognition of we have this deep peace, which is like this core of stillness that's at the root of our consciousness. And then from this foundation of timeless stillness and the deepest level of peace as our foundation, then we can play in the world. We can create in the world. And there's there's drama, but then it's and this kind of goes into my whole thing about the election. It's like because I see the so much anxiety that people have and fear and loathing and scenarios about what's going to happen and um for me I'm noticing that for me it's like I wrote this on Telegram last night. It's I'm having a blast with it. Like I think it's really fun and it's really like interesting and fascinating and I'm finding it really like it's I guess yeah, fascinating would be like the top word. Entertaining at times. I'm learning a lot. I've actually been following things in a way that in a deep way than I ever have before. And I'm kind of following it from a sense of like kind of under like kind of like as a kind of sort of even psychology, like kind of understanding the psychology, which and what I'm realizing is politics is like a game of psychology. It's like you're trying to push certain buttons in people to activate them to take action, you know? And so so it's like I'm observing it. It's like it's kind of like the metaphor we used yesterday of like the ocean of like, on the surface, there's like a lot happening. It's kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. But then there's like the foundation of the ocean that has this timeless peace and stillness there, regardless of what happens. Like it's not touched by what happens on the surface. Um, so I think without that foundation, it's really scary, and it really feels like you're getting like knocked all around, and stuff could happen, and it's like you're still aware of that surface level, and you're still able to engage on that level, but there's like this foundation of the essence of who you are that's not touched by it. Um, that's not shaken by it. And then I think the next level of that is because with that truth, you can kind of engage in the level, you can engage in the surface from a deeper place of groundedness and centeredness. And then the whole paradoxical thing is that actually changes the nature of the dialogue, right? So if someone's coming from a grounded, centered place, um, recognizing the humanity in yourself. So it's like the interesting thing about Jesus is it's like the divine and the human, right? Jesus represents the divine and the human. And we have the divine and the human in us too. And so does everybody else. So it's like, can I recognize the divine in you and also the human? Of like meaning like you're like pure perfection and also you make a lot of mistakes at the same time. Like see both of those things. And myself, like had that understanding of myself, like I'm pure perfection and I make a lot of mistakes. So I think it it like allows for a lot more grace in interacting with other people. And it kind of like you transcend this kind of like demonization of other people, of like people have their perspective, their way of seeing things. You have your perspective, you have your way of seeing things. You engage in a dialogue with the intention of being curious, of learning from each other, of wanting what's there's a saying, the good, the beautiful, and the true. Wanting the good, the beautiful, and the true. Um,
But
so
um,
let me just share a few other things, and then I'll open it up to uh, Antonio and everybody else. Um, I want to just give another perspective about because there's a lot of talk about like there's a threat to democracy and democracy is about to come to an end and it's all crashing down and What's interesting for me is I see exactly the opposite. I see more people engaged than any time in my entire life by far. So I see like democracy like increasing, like more and more people engaged, um, and um, and that's a positive thing. It may feel like it's like kind of more chaotic because more people are engaged, but that's I think if democracy is the best way of deciding things, that's debatable. But if it is the best way of deciding things and there's more people in the process, then it will feel kind of more chaotic. Like if you have, two people trying to make a decision, it's going to be a lot easier than if you have 100 million people trying to make a decision. How they all have to like talk it out and figure it out. You know, and then the thing about democracy that's crazy is if, let's say you're trying to make a decision and you vote and like 51% of the people are like, yeah, this is the best thing. And 49% people are like, no, this is a terrible thing. The 51%, according to democracy, the 51% wins and the 49% loses, and then you just go forward. So it's an interesting system. I think as we awaken in consciousness, it would really be like we would come to like a collective, as the intelligence, as the unified field transcends the ego more, we'd come to more of like a almost like the when the birds are flying in the V in the sky, it's like a natural intelligence that comes to consensus and just is able to flow in the right direction, with the simultaneous unified field of intelligence. Um, so it's an interesting system, but like as long as that's the system, then you follow the system, and it is the intention of like everybody has an equal say, which is also an interesting idea. Everybody has an equal say, and so because everybody has an equal say, more and more people are feeling like it's important what they have to say. Um, so then we have social media, which has just evolved over the last, what, 10, 15 years, right? So it's very, very new. And with social media, it's like people can be sharing what they think all day long, and engaging all day long, and people are doing that all day long, right? So there's a lot of opinions and ideas, and I think it's definitely probably healthy to take breaks from that, maybe extended breaks from all of that. Um, but that's really changed the ability for people to like give voice to what they're thinking or what they're feeling or what's happening. Um, Now, I think on the downside, we have the algorithmic information silo, I think is a way to call it, right? So you kind of get plugged into your algorithm and you're searching for things, and then YouTube or Facebook or whatever shows you the same stuff that you're searching for. So then you start get deeper and deeper, and like you really get passionate about this idea, and you're not you're not encountering the alternative ideas. So that becomes a problem because you get in this siloed way of looking at things, and you're not being able to be exposed to alternative perspectives that can expand your intelligence and expand your horizons. Now, what's interesting for me is I'm probably one of the few people. I have thousands of people I'm connected to on Facebook, like over 70,000 on the Facebook page, and like over five to 10,000 Facebook friends, and then the circle group, 5 to 10,000 people, a bunch of people on Instagram, YouTube, Telegram, and I've lived in like conservative cities and progressive well, not conservative cities, but conservative areas, progressive cities. Because of the work I do, I've been like work with people all over the world from different areas. So I'm connected to like this cross section of all different kinds of people. And I intentionally made a decision a while back of like, I'm not going to like block anybody for their views or their perspectives, or I'm not going to like, some people get a little bit annoying. So you maybe put them on snooze for a little while, but, um, but basically I made an intention, I thought that maybe I could sort of, be a bridge. So I could kind of like just kind of look at what everybody's saying and what they're all thinking, what they're feeling, and kind of be a source of support for people that are in a really divided state, to create understanding. There's actually an interesting show I started tuning into. It's called Two Way. By the way, we have a chat box. You can chat in there if you want. You can find this on YouTube. And um the guy Mark Halpern is the host, and he has this uh oh, that's Daniel. Hey Daniel, welcome. He has this intention of allowing people from different political perspectives to share from around the country, with the intention of like peace, love, and understanding, you know. And he's saying that that's going to be like really important through this election process, to keep people grounded and centered, and to keep people from getting into acts of violence and so forth. Um, so yeah, so I feel like that connection that I have on social media is is valuable because it's very easy to get kind of like siloed in just a certain perspective. Now, with that said, there's also this kind of idea of like um, everything is right, or like do whatever you want, or um, it's kind of like a non-dual, like a you're moving through non-dual consciousness. There can be this idea that don't take it, because I know, because I went through all this. It's like you don't have any perspective, or don't have any don't take a side, but there's some way where you can like awaken to seeing the humanity in everybody and everybody's perspective, and also you're a unique human being, and you can have your perspective that comes from you, while honoring that other people have other perspective that comes from them that may be different than you. So I just wanted to make that. I just wanted, because that was kind of a learning curve for me on this journey. That just because you recognize the oneness of everything doesn't mean you still don't have your own perspective that comes from who you are, but also your perspective is limited to who you are, right? This is why we talk to each other and listen to each other, and share different perspectives. So I think those are the main things I wanted to share. But the main intention is just to just be mindful that um, there could be people that are getting very anxious, and some people that are freaking out, and um, to like just really keep oneself grounded and centered in what's essential, which is most essentially the the spiritual truth, right? And then from that place, to grounded in that, to be able to share and be in the world from a sense of support and service to people, and be able to inquire and be curious from this place. So I feel like we can potentially model that together. So thanks everybody for being here, and open it up to anybody who wants to share. I think Antonio wanted to share something. If you'd like to
Yeah,
share.
thanks.
Mhm.
I mean, I could, on what you just mentioned, being from Mexico, I mean, I've always been very politically opinionated.
Mhm.
And what you just said right now, for many, many years, I had a different mind frame that was always led me to conflict. I believe that what I believe was absolutely true. And if somebody didn't believe what I believed, I thought they were wrong, and I was going to prove it to them. I lived that way for a long time, and it just led me to conflict. I've adopted a new way of thinking in my later years. I'm 55 now, and I think it's very important to recognize that everybody's truth is unique. I've taught myself to absolutely respect everybody's own truth. If your truth and my truth don't, they're not the same, that's perfectly okay. Your truth is yours, my truth is mine, we're both right. Everybody's got the right to their own truth, and respecting other people's truth is really important, and learning to think this way has freed me from conflict. I
Mhm.
think respecting everybody's own experience, whatever that may be. My truth is only my own. My truth is, absolutely my own. And if somebody's truth is different from mine, that's absolutely okay. And their truth is perfect for them, and neither of us are wrong. Learning to think this way has freed me from conflict. But regarding, like, the politics and the election and all that, being an outsider, I'm not. I see it from a different perspective than Americans who are living in the U.S. and are more. I see I'm always reminded of divide and conquer. I'm a big conspiracy theorist, and so I see politics as just as another control mechanism to keep
Mhm.
people pitted against each other while the secret hand manipulates the whole thing and gets people riled up. And so this what I'm seeing here from the outside from Mexico, being very politically minded, um, you know, I'm um, I'm kind of left leaning, but
Mhm.
definitely not. That doesn't mean I favor what you guys call, like, the left in your country or the Dems. I think that all politics is rotten. I subscribe to the George Carlin philosophy. You know, Politicians are there to give people the illusion of choice, and but um, just the way that people are being whipped up in a frenzy. There's so much confrontation, so much. Um, it is. I don't want to say it's scary because it's not scary, but it is a little worrisome, because of you know going down what's going to happen next week. Who's going to be happy, who's going to be pissed, and what they're going to do. There's already a lot of anticipation into the. But again, I mean, I don't want to comment too much on the politics. I think all politics, like a lot of religion, is just elements of control to keep people in line to certain agendas. And going back to the other comments that you made at the beginning, where I wanted to intercede. Yes, absolutely, we're all part human, part divine. But I do believe that a lot of people are just completely not in tune with their divine self. A lot of people are, at least in my healing journey, this is how I've come to understand it. The difference between the heart and the head. For me, that's like a very clear. I was disconnected from my heart for a very long time, and I was trapped in my head, and that's how you know, um, the journey back to the heart, discovering your own divinity within yourself. Is a process that I think many of us are in and going through. But I think a lot of people are totally like I was. I was trapped in my head, disconnected from my heart, unaware of my divinity for a large part of my life. And having been able to reconnect and search for my divinity and to reconnect through my heart. And it is about Christ consciousness. I've had a very personal experience with Christ from a very early age. I've been searching for it. So, I mean, so I do see a lot of people, I think, that are like I was, trapped in their head, disconnected from their heart, completely disconnected from their divinity, a large swath of the population. And those are the ones that are, you know, um, feeding that negative energy machine that's out there, because that's I think part of a lot of what's happening is in general is this. Humanity is manipulated to produce large amounts of negative energy through you know emotions and feelings and thoughts. We're incredibly energy producing machines. This human avatar is an amazing, incredible energy producing machine. And so anyway,
Thanks,
I could go
Antonio,
on
for
and
sharing.
on,
Yeah,
but I
appreciate
won't.
it. Anybody else want to share?
Well, I'll share something that I've kind of thought of for a while, but somebody actually voiced it. It was that guy, Daryl Anka,
Oh yeah,
I told you about, Brian.
we have
He,
some Bashar fans in here today tonight.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I've only seen like two videos of his. But he said an interesting thing. Uh, he said those of us who really get into conspiracy theories are, in order to elevate to the next dimension, we're going to have to let go of them. And both the host and I went, oh no, kind of. But he gave an interesting reason. And, I can't say that completely know what I think about it all, but he said that sometimes people that understand the power of the mind will start a conspiracy theory to get people very focused on that idea and actually use their energy to make that happen. And I just thought that was an interesting thought. I mean, I could see that happening, as a manipulation. Um, but um, when I think about things spiritually, I have learned a lot about the power of my focus. And I do know that when I focus on anything hard, it helps to pave the way to that thing. So I like to be aware and I like to question everything. But I'm been trying to not get too embroiled in negativity because I don't want to add power to it.
Yeah, like Antonio mentioned that negative energy machine. I totally agree. Generating generating the chaos and the division and the negativity, it just like compiles on itself and gains strength and um, carries like a real, yeah, just a real, like it creates the reality in a very negative way.
I liked
Yeah.
how in the four agreements, which is now the five agreements, I like the last one that was added, and I think it goes like um, to be to be questioning and to um, but to have an open mind. It's kind of two different things. To definitely question, but to also have an open mind. I like that.
I put a question in the chat. Does this narrative empower me or disempower me? I think is a great question. So it's like with the conspiracy theory thing, it's good to be like if you become more aware of what's really going on, then that empowers you, right? But then if you start to get afraid about it, then that disempowers you. Um, so it's like I find there's like this thing of like um, there's people that are just like clueless to what's really going on, so they're like disempowered. And there's people that are aware of what's going on and they're totally freaked out about it, and then they're disempowered. So it's like this balance of like being aware, but not getting caught in the fear-based conspiracy theories, right? And fixating on them and ruminating on them. And it's again the algorithm. The algorithm is so interesting because me learning about so-called law of attraction teachings before the algorithm invention, once I saw that thing happening, I'm like, this is like the external manifestation of the law of attraction. It's like it's amazing to watch it, you know. um I used this example before because it's so perfect about I did an experiment where I went on Google I went on Google and I said I don't want to see pictures of cherries, and I searched and then it was all pictures of cherries, you know. And it's like that's how the universe works. Like it doesn't matter if you say I want it or don't want it. I don't want to drink alcohol. I don't want to drink alcohol. I don't want to drink alcohol. Well, you're going to be drinking alcohol because that's all you're thinking about. So whatever you're thinking about, it's like a tractor field that gravitates you towards that thing you're thinking about. And this is why, like with addiction, thinking like, oh, I don't want to do the thing never works. Never. It may work like for a few hours or a few days or something, but it never works over the long term. You have to shift your attention to what you do want, and then that your the attention for the thing of what you don't want just isn't there anymore. So it's not in your field. Um, so I think that's like really important to be mindful of is like noticing like the fear-based narratives, the fear-based stories, and especially if they're about, which they usually are about the future, right? It's like, oh my God, this is going to be so terrible. It's like, and Bashar makes that point, and he says like, if you're caught in like this narrative of how the future is going to be so terrible and horrible, well, that will be true for you, but if someone else is not in that narrative, it won't be true. So it's like these multiplicity of timelines, and where your attention is focused is what you're experiencing, you know. Now that doesn't mean that you're in like denial of, there's this whole thing about like spiritual bypassing, and like it doesn't mean you're denying, things that are happening, or you're suppressing or repressing your emotions. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just a matter of like being able to consciously use the power of your mind to as what's intended to be, which is a creative the creative life force, to create life, to create your life, and to create the life that to be, as I call it, a life artist, right? And the mind has that. Our minds has that power. Like Robin is a beautiful artist. She paints, right? So I imagine she gets a vision. She's like visualizing something, imagining it, and then she paints what she's imagining, right? And it's like that's our potential. Like we have the potential to our life. We can paint what we're imagining. But if you're imagining all this like horrible, horrific, terrible, nightmare scenarios, then what are you painting? You're going to be painting that. So don't fixate on that. Don't be in denial of it. Like, no, if someone's, let's say, over the next week or so, if someone's feeling anxious or someone's in pain, we don't deny that. We're present with that. Or if we're feeling it inside ourselves, we're present with it, but we don't have to get fixated on these narratives that are stories. They're not reality. The only thing that's real is what's happening in this moment. Anything that we're projecting about the future is just our imagination. And so it's why it's just so important to just be present. It's why wow the now. The books that I've written and things I talk about so much is about being present, because if you're present in the moment, you don't have the space to get caught in these scenarios. And from the present moment, you can imagine, where you want to be going and what you're called from the creative impulse that resides inside us, which I think is the divine impulse. So it's like we're like the vessel, we're like the clear channel for God to flow through us as the creative, as a channel for that creativity, the universal creative intelligence to flow through us into this world together.
I have a question.
Yes, I love
Um,
questions.
so, like a lot of times, I use the power of my imagination to create what happens in my life. I imagined having a good partner. I got him. I imagined moving to an exciting place. I did it, but I'm not sure. I don't, I hesitate to try to imagine a certain candidate that I might want winning because I don't really know. Um, I don't know if that's the best thing to happen at this time. I mean, I think I do. I may think I do, but I don't really know. And so uh I guess I can just imagine harmony and freedom and the things that I really want happening. What do you think about that?
I think that you bring up for me something interesting, which is, so it goes back to the peace thing, right? It's like, is is peace and harmony always the best way forward? Is peace and harmony always the best way for our evolution of our consciousness, for our growth, for our expansion, for our, awakening? And
I
probably
vote yes.
not. I say probably not. I think that if you look at your life, Antonio, and you look at the things that you went through, um, I know some of the things from what you told me in the past, they were very difficult, and there was a lot of adversity that
But in
you
general, I
overcame.
think for humanity, I mean, as a species, not on an individual level. I mean, if you have to choose which is the best way forward for humanity as a species, peace and harmony or chaos and and discord, or those are being the polarities. I mean, we've as a species we've been at war for so long. We've been at humanity has been at each other's throats now for so long. There's been so much misery and so much heartlessness. Our history as a humanity has been marked by such terrible, heartless, and to this day, I mean, look what's happening around the world today. It's still going on at this late stage of the game, you know. I think peace and harmony. I vote peace and harmony as the best way forward for humanity. I'm not sure that as a species we can reach it. You know, I still have faith. I don't want to lose faith in humanity that we can together. There's a huge effort on many levels by many peoples, you know, all over. Native groups all over the planet are pushing, you know, collectively. Um, Groups like like us throughout the world. There's a big push for for peace, for harmony, to stop the heartlessness, because I think that's marked for so long now. Our history going back how many thousands of years, war, control, power, heartlessness. Um, and so I vote harmony and peace, for sure. I think that's definitely the best way forward, individually and collectively, for sure. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
I can imagine a scenario that might create what looks like peace on the outside, but it could be lacking other things like freedom.
Let me give a different example. So let's say that you are in a relationship, woman or a man, whatever your preference is. You're in a relationship with another human being, and how do you grow in the relationship? How do you evolve in the relationship? How do you deepen in the relationship? Do you face conflict when it's time to face it? If there's a disagreement, or if there's a misunderstanding, or if you're not on the same page, or you not hearing each other, or you're not, present with each other, or you want two different things. Um, do you face that and like move through it and then go to like a deeper level of intimacy together? Or do you just kind of like pretend it's not there, or kind of like avoid it, or like avoid the conversation? Or is this making sense?
I think you have to put yourself in the other's position. You have to be very compassionate, and you have to be able to, uh, you know, uh, uh, putting the other first in a way without sacrifice. Coming to that meeting point. And again, and this goes back to exactly what I was saying: peace and harmony. If somebody's going to, if in that situation you described, if somebody's going to impose their over the other one, it's about a concession. It's about coming together for the greater good of the relationship, and coming to a meeting point where both are, in agreement and in compassion of the other one's needs and wants. And so, yes, peace and harmony. And that's how you move forward and grow on an individual level and a collective level too, you know. Um, but
I
what I
I
was thinking.
definitely agree that that would be ideal. Um, but that's not where most people are, right? Like it's like people get emotional about things, they get upset about things, they get angry. Um, some things are very important to people, certain perspectives, ideas, things they want in their life. And it's like, I want this and I want to go this way, you want to go that way. What are we going to do? Are we going to just, you know, I think I guess it's like conscious conflict. Maybe it could be a way of describing it. So it's like I'm gonna go this. It's like I just kill you. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's like, hey, I want to talk to you. Like, I don't agree with what you want, the way you want to do things. We have to come to a consensus here because we're in a relationship. So we need it, and then it can feel like, um, I remember this one time I was staying at a friend's house, and him and his partner, his girlfriend, and they were just like going at it, like some kind of big argument in the bedroom, in their bedroom. And I'm just out there doing my own thing. And then I had to like I needed to leave. I needed to do something. I needed to like just talk to him for a second. So I had to knock on the door, and he opens the door and he's like, "We're deeply engaged right now. Could you just give us a few minutes?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. But I like the way he framed that. Like we're deeply engaged, you know? So there is this thing of like it's it's like you care. People care. It's very important to people. This is very important to me. I care. I'm passionate. I'm engaged. It's not a bad thing, and it can actually make us go deeper together, and we can learn and like take it to another level. But if we avoid the conflict, then we don't get there. Um, that's kind of how I see things like collectively. It's sort of like it's like humanity's in a school and we're like moving through these different lessons we need to move through. And we graduate from second grade, we go to third grade, we graduate from third grade, and the lessons get harder, actually, not easier, they get harder, they get more difficult. Um, so it feels like we're collectively like we're moving through something that's like very intense potentially. I'm not what's the word? I'm not prophesizing anything. Just saying like potentially it's like very intense. Um, but for those of us on this path, it will like awaken us further in our consciousness. So I'm not saying like come at it with violence or come at it with like trying to hurt people or trying to like, crush somebody physically, emotionally, or psychologically. Um, but I'm saying the way to actually be in a place of peace and harmony sometimes is to embrace the conflict and not to resist the conflict, if that makes sense. Uh, Daniel, did you raise your hand?
Your mic's not on, dude.
Yeah, your mic's not on.
Yeah,
There you go. Daniel coming to us from where? Togo?
yeah, from Togo.
Togo in Africa.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
And a very good day to everyone. Thank you. Mr. Antonio was saying about getting moving and growing and peace and harmony. I
Yes.
think sometimes in life, peace comes at a cost, and most times at an uncomfortable cost. Peace is valuable, and any valuable things come with cost. They're expensive. So when you need peace and harmony to grow, and you should expect sometimes uncomfortable cost. It's normal.
So what's it? Can you give an example of like how you see that working?
Yeah, how I see working is sometimes in conflict zones. Let's give example. Many places where you have conflicts around the world. Sometimes the governments they're trying to bring peace to their own people. You have to engage in active conflicts. They want to bring peace. You enjoy peace in your hometown. You enjoy peace in your country. Sometimes our governments are engaged in some hostilities to actually create that cool environment for us to enjoy peace.
So would it be like self-defense, like you're protecting your community or your nation from attack? Is that like kind of what you're saying?
You're protecting your nation from attack. And sometimes you bring that into our personal lives. There are
Hmm.
sometimes some conditions you could face. You need to face them. It could
Yeah.
be hard. Some
Yeah.
policies that would be
Yeah.
uncomfortable that you have to make
Yeah.
to achieve peace.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
How
know as much about the geopolitical part, but I do know from in someone's personal life, there is adversity that you need to face. And if you don't
yeah,
face it, you're not going to grow. I feel pretty clear about that. So if you're just like, I don't want to deal with this, I just want to like be in my own little, you know, universe of ignoring the situation that's in front of me, um, you don't
it could
grow
continue.
on this path because what you start to realize is like everything that's that's presented before you is presented before you exactly and precisely for your growth, your evolution, awakening conscious, like exactly and precisely. It's not by mistake, you know? So it's like an invitation to grow, to learn, to awaken. And like the challenge that's there is exactly the thing that you need to step into to open up to that next level of awakening in
Yeah,
consciousness, you know? So I do think that also can happen on the collective conscious as well. Um, so the paradox is like actually in embracing it, there is a sense of peace and harmony inside. That was kind of my original point, right? I was like, if there's a sense of stillness and groundedness inside, you can have this thing that you need to face, which looks on the surface like it's like intense. It's like adversity, you know, it's very challenging, but you can still stay grounded inside yourself because you're connected to, you know, the source of who you really are.
exactly.
There was like my grandmother was in the DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution. And she was just very, very, very proud that we had ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War. And a lot of people will say, freedom wasn't free. We had to fight to have freedom. And I'm not saying that's always true. I mean, maybe there'll be a point where that doesn't have to happen, but I don't know when for sure.
Yeah, something big's going to have to change, and I think that's kind of, I mean, not to project too much into the future, but I think we've all talked, everybody's been talking about in one way or another, the evolution of consciousness. I hear a lot. I've been reading a lot and hearing a lot about this bifurcation. There's
Yeah,
a big there's a big
that's a good
split. I
topic.
mean, and I think it's very clear. And and for me, again, I see it from my perspective, my personal journey of healing. Where um, for me the two polarities, the head and the heart, and being trapped in the head, being completely asleep in this exterior matrix, disconnected from the heart, disconnected from spirituality and divinity. And that's how I see it. I mean, because I this is how I've healed myself. This is how I view the world. Those that are, awakened, connected to their heart, connected to their divinity, seeking to live from a heart-centered, love-centered, sacred experience, respecting all of life, and those who are completely disconnected from their hearts, trapped in their head, subjects to, being slaves, and energetic slaves of the matrix. It took me a lot of hard work and a lot of help from my own divinity and my divine protection team to be able to return, to begin to reconnect to my heart, to my divinity, to awaken this reconnection to spirituality, to the divine, to what, I don't like to use the word God just because I think it has a lot of connotations, but yes, the true one and only God of all creation. When I say that, and the reason I say I don't like to use the word God because I don't subscribe to a lot of the, you know, uh, traditional meanings of that. I have my own, experience and definition, but the true one and only God of all creation, which I believe is at the core of all of life, each and every one of us, and all of life, every expression, every plant, every animal, every star, every ocean, every mountain, truly omniscient, omnipresent, holy and divine source of all creation, which some call God. And my life has been a journey into, finding that. And because I was given this story of a very distant, far off, God in heaven that would punish me if I didn't behave. And so when I discovered that at the core of my being, that was life changing. And then just being able to recognize it in everyone and everything. And so I think that's the journey we're all on. And going back to this bifurcation, because I was disconnected from that truth of myself for so long, I now see it. I see, it's not a judging, it's an awareness, of when I see people who are in the state that I was in for so long, totally trapped in their head, totally disconnected from their heart, energetic slaves of this exterior matrix, generating all this negative energy. And so there's these two paths, the old way, which is continuing, the creating the hatred, the division, the me, the self-serving system, and then the heart center, love, peace, divine system where most of us, I think, want to be and want to go. So that is definitely two very distinct paths that are like, I think coming out, they're more clear to see every day. And so, anyway, just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you very much, Antonio.
Yeah, like my dad was an ace fighter pilot in the Marine Corps. And, I grew up in Laguna Beach in the 70s, 60s and 70s. I was a teenager. And so I really loved the peace movement and I loved all the music and all that. And so it's kind of a thorn in his side. And when he got older, I did ask him, I said, what do you think about war now, Dad? And his face turned really crumpled and he said, oh man, there must be a better way. And he actually became a spiritual healer when he was older. So it was interesting to see that transformation in him.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think we're all, even though our exterior selves may be so different and our missions may be, I think ultimately we're all on that same path, of reconnecting with that divine God source within ourselves, and then, expanding it as much as possible. I think ultimately we're all on that. Well, if I may, uh, my my experience has led me to believe that there is actually only one being. All creation is only one unified single consciousness expressed in all these different individualized, forms, which are each of us and all life forms. So, all that is all there is. Playing separate things with amnesia.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I could go on and on and on because I just love sharing, about this is one of my most favorite topics to discuss, and like I was saying, my life has been such a journey in trying to, like we all are, we're all trying to just, discern and figure out this great mystery that is life, I think we're all on that same journey trying to put this puzzle together, you know.
Jackie says, even in turbulence, I find focusing on what is my next best step or what is best for everyone, continually setting intention for God's will. All those things keep you from dwelling on past or future, and nothing in the past or future is real. Yes, once you see the oneness, how can you be unkind to someone who was really just part of your own self?
Yeah, that's it. That is it.
Okay,
That
so
is the that
I want to touch on that. So love. Love. We started talking about this a little bit last week, and this distinction between being loving and being nice. Sometimes it's the same, but sometimes it's not the same. And I think this is important as you awaken on this path to recognize that. So I think when you really when I feel like what love is first of all, it's being present with somebody. It's like really being present, really being fully available, really caring about them and really listening to them. And and then like if I'm trying to think of an example, but if you see if someone's if you're interacting with somebody and they and you see that they're going to do something that's really going to hurt themselves and hurt other people, um, do you be nice and say like, okay, you know, or is it the more loving thing to do is to like tell them like, you know, I think you're making a mistake and I care about you and I don't want you to do this thing and here's why and here's you see what I'm saying? So again, it's like there's like this kind of concept when you get into like intense times in the collective that have a lot of conflict and have a lot of intensity, it doesn't mean that there's not love present. It just means that like you're in an intense moment, you know, and this is why I'm saying like it's actually to me, it's actually like exciting and interesting because like if God is at the heart of creation, and like Antonio is saying, there is this unified field of intelligence that's animating all things, and is like it's like this grand theater where God's like playing all the roles, and we're evolving into this greater sense of realization of who we really are. Then we need to move through the different acts of the play to like open up to that space. And so just to keep that in mind that like, as we're moving through this space that we're moving through, um, it may not look nice or sweet, but it doesn't mean it's not love that's at the core of it. In fact, I would say love is always at the core. If you're connected to love, love is always at the core. If you're not, then you're not going to see that. You're not going to be having any awareness of that at all. Then you're like living in hell, like literally. But if you are connected to that source point, then then that's the foundation of which that's the foundation of how you're seeing things. That's the ground of which everything's arising out of that you're experiencing. And that can take all sorts of different shapes and forms and colors and sizes, and there can be the full range of emotions. And that's the other thing too, is like I think when you start on this journey, there's a sense of like, oh, I just want to be happy, I want to be happy. But this is deeper than emotion. Like emotion is just a passing thing on the surface. It comes and it goes, you know? So if you look at this is why the story of Jesus became so powerful to me, because Jesus wasn't always happy, but he was always in the essence of love, you know? But sometimes he cried, you know? But he cried from this place of love, from the unified field of love, from care, from deep listening. And it's just that's a good model for us to awaken to that emotional intelligence where we're not just attached to one kind of emotion, but we're in an unconditional loving relationship with the full range of experience. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Jackie says, that is the ultimate paradox as a parent. Am I always nice or firm coming from love? So I'm just going to go here. So if you think of God as a father, ultimately God is beyond shape, beyond form, beyond all comprehension of the mind.
Gender.
So all gender, yes. But for a moment, as a thought exercise, if you think of God as a father, then God sometimes is firm with you, not always nice. And the reason, though, this is where people get it wrong, is not because God wants to punish you or God hates you or God, wants to get back at you. It's to help you. It's to take you to the next level, just like a father with their son. You know, a father sometimes is like a human father is sometimes firm with their son because they want the son to grow into the fullness of themselves, into the full potential of themselves, you know. So God wants us to grow into the full potential of ourselves. So then God puts lessons before us that are challenging for us to move into that place. And it's almost like it's more loving to see the potential of someone than not to see it. Does that make sense? Like if you think like, oh, you're just this all you're ever going to be is what you are. I don't see anything for you, any kind of better future for you. I don't think that that's very loving. I think the more loving thing would be like, I think you have so much potential inside you that's unlimited, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to like support you to get there. And I think that's the way like God's guiding us each moment, whether we realize it or not, that support is there. And it's actually very touching. It's very like to look back and see that that's actually what was happening the whole time, even when you thought that it wasn't.
Yeah, and when you have a child, you have a little bit more opportunity when they're young to correct them. But then it gets to a certain point, when they're 18 or they're on their own and they may be doing something, like involved in a drug addiction. I have this experience with one of my kids. And you help, 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 but then you realize that the way you're helping isn't really helping them. And sometimes you just have to let go and allow them to experience the consequences of their own choices. And maybe God does that with us
I
too.
think
So,
that's exactly what happens. This is the whole concept of free will, right? The idea is like God loves you so much that you can do what you want. You want to try it your way, and try it your way for as long as you want, And then when you realize it's like not working out, then, come back to me and we'll talk, And I always forgive you for whatever you tried to do that didn't work out.
hmm.
I think God is the true one and only God of all creation. I think is so beyond our full understanding.
Hmm.
Just so much beyond. I mean, I don't think our little human uh, genetically modified brains are the mystery of the multiplicity of unity. I mean, it's so much more vast than we even have an inkling. Um, and and again, we have been programmed with so many, I believe, so many untruths about the reality of God, by religions and by so many, um, you know, let's say not benevolent influences in the history of our planet. But um, I do believe it's a level of love I've encountered. I've been fortunate and blessed enough in my life to have encountered, and have felt that true, profound, deep, unlimited,
And
unconditional love,
yeah,
that we
unconditional.
come from,
Yeah,
That's our
yeah,
origin and our
yeah,
destiny as well.
yeah.
You know,
And our
and
present.
and I think yeah, and I think the human mind is one of the greatest obstacles actually to commune with it.
Hmm.
There's so much programming up here. There's so
Yeah.
much conditioning, so much programming. Um, but um, eventually, once uh, we will eventually remember all of it, and
Hmm.
and be back to that truth of our being. I think. I know. I don't think I know.
I feel a very beautiful energy in the space right now. Very deep. Does anybody else have anything they want to share?
Well, since you mentioned it, a little while ago when you were talking, I had a couple of syncs. I know you're a writer, and I like to write as well, and so I wanted to just perhaps ask your permission to share a little piece that came out, that I in the search again, something I wrote a couple of years ago.
Something that you want to recite?
Oh no, no, no! I was just going to link it for anybody who
Oh
wants
yeah,
to.
sure. Yeah, yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Neil Donald Walsh,
Yeah.
Conversations with God.
Yeah.
For me, it hit me, back in my what I call my first awakening. I had in back in '92 and '93. I went through this massive awakening, and his books like had a really deep impact on me, in the sense of yes, you can have a personal relationship, you can. And so anyway, I'll just link it. It's a little piece that I wrote, and if anybody wants to read it, a new conversation with God. And so anyway, I had a lot of what you were saying, had a lot of syncs to that. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much, Antonio.
I'm gonna bookmark it.
Nice.
Yeah, I've had some interesting, very nice responses to it. I like to share it. It's a little conversation again, and I think we've all done it in a way at some point, you know, uh, in this journey of discovery. Like I said before, I think we're all on that same journey of discovery. Different stages, different experiences, different. But ultimately, I think it's that one same journey, back to the source.
We're having a 1 day retreat here. Uh November 16th, Saturday, November 16th at our place. So if you'd like to see our new sanctuary, I mean it's not that new, but it's our second 1 day retreat here. So if you'd like to join us for that, um, let me know and I'll connect you with the
I,
link
I,
for
I
that.
would love to be able to go up there for that.
One
It's
day,
not
right?
easy for me, but one day, yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the wish list.
Yeah.
It's on the wish list.
How far is it from Asheville?
Less than 2 hours. Well, now there's a little bit of a detour because of the I-26 got broken in half. So let's say about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours.
How
Yeah.
much?
It's same as last time. Sliding scale, $150 to $300.
Okay.
Yep.
It looks beautiful in the pictures that you guys put up.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Is
feels like a
that a
special
friend of
place.
yours, the ranch or something, or
Um, I mean, it's our place. Um,
it looks like it's on a big ranch?
yeah, there is, I guess, what you could call, I mean, it's kind of surrounded by farms, but there's also a wild forest in the back.
Hmm.
Yeah. Jeff's coming down tomorrow. He's doing a personal retreat, a weekend personal retreat at our place. So
Cool.
he'll be
Hmm.
experiencing that. We have a New Year's retreat, which we do annually. So excited about that. That'll be a 3 day event. I'm doing personal sessions online and in person, including here at the space too. So if you want to have a personal session or extended retreat,
Is
uh,
that at Montreat?
what's that, Robin?
Where is that going to be, the New Year's
You
retreat?
know, I yes, right now it's scheduled at Black Mountain.
Okay.
Um, we are Annie, are you on here? Annie and I are discussing the possibility of possibly shifting it to here,
Oh.
but we haven't finished that conversation yet.
And
So um, we'll make a decision on that pretty soon.
there's places you can spend the night up there?
Yep, yep. And also Black Mountain has rooms. Also, it's called Christ Mountain Retreat Center.
Mhm.
They have rooms also, or you can commute. Um, have the Patreon link to support what we're doing here, which is greatly appreciated. Or you can make a contribution by Venmo.
how do you get to the Patreon one?
I think this is the link. Somebody can check and see if that goes anywhere.
Okay.
Let me know, Robin.
Yeah, it says Brian
Okay,
Piergrosi.
that's me. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So you become a member or
Yeah. Yeah.
can, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'll bookmark it too.
Jackie's in New Orleans. Yeah, I'm sure that's an amazing Halloween experience there. Uh, yeah, thanks for being here, Jackie. I always appreciate your contributions on the chat. And I think we'll wrap it up. Really appreciate all of you. Next week should be interesting. We'll see what we have to talk about next week. Grateful for all of you for being here, and just the reminder to just stay grounded and centered within yourself, and access that timeless sense of peace and stillness, presence, regardless of what's happening on the surface of the world. And have a great week. See you next week. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of fun.